The movie begins with a television interview featuring Dr. Alice Crippen, who claims she has discovered a vaccine for cancer. She also asserts that this vaccine is guaranteed, tested, and proven reliable for curing the illness. The scene then shifts 3 years later, showing New York City eerily quiet and completely deserted, now practically a ghost town with no human life. The city is inhabited by various animals and strange beings that only come out at night. Yet there is one man, Robert Neville, who remains there with his dog, Samantha. They stay in the city to continue searching for a remedy for those who have been infected. Technically, Robert could have left the city, but he feels a responsibility to remain. One day, while Robert is casually driving around town, he is startled by a group of deer dashing across the road recklessly. Robert immediately chases them in hopes of catching one. The moment he gets one deer in his sights, a lion leaps out and captures it first. All Robert can do is resign himself to the situation, as the lion, along with its family, takes the catch. The alarm on Robert's watch goes off, reminding him that evening is nearing. He rushes back home to safety, where it's revealed he has a well-stocked house filled with supplies. Obviously meant to last for a long period, considering no stores are open in these circumstances. While bathing Samantha, another alarm sounds on his watch, signaling immediate danger. He swiftly seals all doors and windows. Robert and Samantha hide in the bathtub, listening to unsettling howls and shrieks from outside. The story flashes back to the initial virus outbreak, a time when the entire city was in chaos. Here we see Robert frantically trying to evacuate his wife and daughter, but he ultimately decides to remain behind to find a cure. Although this virus spreads through the air and through bites, Robert happens to be immune. Suddenly, an infected individual collides with the car Robert is driving. The scene then shifts once again to Robert, who wakes up from his sleep and exercises to keep himself in good physical condition. Later, he heads to his personal laboratory to work on his experimental vaccine, carefully documenting every step of his process. Out of the many vaccines he formulates and tests on lab rats, one seems to show a promising effect. This time, he plans to test it on an infected human. As usual, Robert goes out during the day with Samantha. They stop by a bookstore filled with mannequins that Robert imagines are real people. It might seem strange, but since he's living there alone, he tries to maintain his mental health by creating the illusion of social interaction so he doesn't feel too isolated. His daytime activities also include entering abandoned homes to gather supplies. Every midday he goes to the docks to broadcast messages, inviting any survivors in the city to come for food and shelter. From afar, Robert notices another deer and eagerly sets out to catch it. Unfortunately, the deer darts into a dark building, the kind of place where the infected, often called the Dark Seekers, typically dwell. Robert panics when he sees Samantha run inside. He has no choice but to enter the building as well. Following the trail of blood from the wounded deer, he eventually finds Samantha hiding under a table, visibly frightened. Suddenly, several Dark Seekers realize Robert's presence and charge toward him. He narrowly escapes the building, and one Dark Seeker clinging to him is burned by the sunlight upon exiting. Robert then sets a trap to capture one of the Dark Seekers from the same building. His plan succeeds, and he manages to snare a female Dark Seeker, taking advantage of the bright daylight that keeps the others at bay. He brings this captured Darkseeker to his lab, intending to test the new vaccine on her. Unfortunately, the vaccine still does not work. Despite many such experiments, Robert remains immune to both airborne and direct contact infection, whereas Samantha is only immune to the airborne strain, but not to bites. The story cuts back to Robert's wife and daughter waiting to be evacuated in the midst of a frenzied crowd. Some people have already been infected, but Robert's family manages to board a helicopter. The narrative then returns to Robert's daily routine. He roams the city, appears at the docks around noon, and takes Samantha on rides around town. During his travels, he notices that one of the mannequins he arranged has been moved to a different spot. Perplexed, Robert realizes something odd is happening. In his confusion, he shoots at the mannequin, only to be greeted by strange echoes of shrieking from all around. Panicking, Robert fires in multiple directions, unaware of any exact target. As he approaches the mannequin, He is suddenly caught in a snare and loses consciousness right away. Robert's watch alarm goes off at dusk, and this time it jolts him awake. He manages to cut himself free, but in the process falls, accidentally stabbing his own thigh with the knife he used to slice the rope. Unable to walk properly, Robert tries to escape the trap area. Right then, a dark seeker appears from the dark building, accompanied by 3 infected dogs. The sun has not completely disappeared yet, giving Robert and Samantha a slim chance to flee. Sadly, the sunlight soon moves away, enabling the infected dogs to launch a direct assault. Robert is able to handle them, but Samantha sustains a bite. Once home, Robert desperately attempts to treat Samantha, but his efforts fail. Samantha succumbs to the infection. With profound sadness, Robert has no choice but to end Samantha's suffering, holding her tenderly in his arms. It's a devastating moment for him. He buries Samantha, weighed down by grief and beginning to feel the onset of depression. In his distress that same night, Robert recklessly drives into a known Darkseeker territory. His actions suggest a desire to give up, as the Darkseekers greatly outnumber him, and nighttime is their domain. He rams his vehicle into the Darkseekers roaming around, but inevitably they overpower him. With his car barely functional, a Darkseeker manages to break in and almost reaches him, until a sudden bright light shines on Robert's vehicle, driving the Darkseekers away. It turns out that this light is from a woman who has come to his rescue. While semi-conscious, Robert tries to warn her not to leave any traces for the Darkseekers to follow, and urges her to hide with him by daybreak. The next scene reveals the fate of Robert's wife and daughter. Right after their helicopter departs, another helicopter spirals out of control and collides with theirs, confirming the worst. They did not survive the accident. The narrative shifts back to Robert, who awakens to see he is in his house, having been saved by the woman and a young boy. Their names are Anna and Ethan. Anna explains that she heard Robert's radio broadcast in Maryland and is en route to Vermont, where there is a rumored survivor colony. Robert, convinced that no one else is alive, repeatedly denies the possibility. He insists that all humans are gone.
Survivors couldn't survive the cold. There's a hope.
Shut up! Everybody's dead. Everybody is dead.
When Robert calms down a bit, they talk more. Anna attempts to persuade him to join her journey, but Robert refuses, stating that he feels obligated to keep working on a cure for any remaining infected people. Where Robert shows them the equipment he used to capture the female Darkseeker, the same devices that ended up trapping him. In a scene tied to the film's conclusion, Robert proclaims that Darkseekers lack the capacity for deep thought, dislike, or affection, because their brain functions have been severely reduced, where he decides to lower the captured Darkseeker's body temperature in hopes of optimizing his vaccine. In his lab, we also see numerous photographs of Darkseekers that did not survive his past trials, indicating just how many experiments he has attempted. Anna and Ethan stay in Robert's daughter's old room. Robert's daughter Marley was named after Bob Marley, since Robert is a fan of the legendary musician. Once more, Anna urges Robert to accompany them to the colony, but he is steadfast in his belief that the colony does not exist. In the midst of their debate, they hear loud noises outside. A large group of Darkseekers has tracked them to Robert's residence, attacking in significant numbers. Robert activates strong floodlights that he has rigged around the house, but the Darkseekers still manage to break in. He detonates explosives around the perimeter, slowing them down somewhat, but the threat persists. While trying to find Anna, Robert is ambushed by a Darkseeker. He manages to subdue it with his weapon. He then finds Anna and Ethan hiding under a table, while another Darkseeker creates an opening in the ceiling. Robert eliminates that one as well. A second wave of Darkseekers arrives, forcing them to retreat to the lab, where the female Darkseeker appears to show signs of recovery, suggesting that Robert's vaccine might finally be working. However, the Darkseekers break into the lab soon after. Robert pleads with them to understand that he can cure the infection, but one particularly agitated Darkseeker leaves a butterfly imprint on the glass door. And he realizes the aggressive Darkseeker simply wants the female set free. Cautiously stepping outside, Robert sees the Darkseekers hold back from harming him once they have their companion. After retrieving the female Darkseeker, the others withdraw, revealing they are not as purely hostile as they initially appear. In the end, Robert, Anna, and Ethan drive off toward Vermont, where other survivors are rumored to be living. They travel with the precious vaccine Robert has finally managed to create. The film concludes on that hopeful note. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.